Question from a Trotskyist Discord viewer who had to get off. He says, I found the beginning discussion of the formation and problems of the Chinese worker state unconvincing because Mao and the very early PRC in a lot of ways did take over the nationalist state apparatus, i.e. like the first year was most concerned with bourgeois statecraft, such as cutting military budget and issuance of new currency to reduce national debt. Expropriations tended to be only of the largest estates. In fact, the national bourgeoisie was invited to help with the issuance of the new currency. Could you speak on this?
Yeah, so that is actually something that is quite true and something that a lot of people don't really know about the Chinese Revolution, is that in the immediate aftermath of the revolution in 1949, of the victory of the Chinese Communist Party in the Civil War, you did have this effort to base the Chinese state on this idea of new democracy, of a bloc of four classes that included the national bourgeoisie, and that attempted to retain the bourgeoisie in the state apparatus. And what you really saw was that that didn't really work. It resulted in serious clashes between what remained of the bourgeoisie and the new bureaucracy that had put itself into place, and particularly during the Korean War, when China found itself at war with the world's major imperial powers and needed to sustain war production in order to participate in that conflict, it really became necessary for broader expropriations to be carried out. And so you saw a more significant transformation of the Chinese state occurring, particularly with the start of the Korean War.
Okay. I have a question from Luis. Do you think that the global economic crisis triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic increases the possibility of open inter-imperialist conflict between China and the US? Or are the two economies too integrated to allow for this possibility?
Right. Well, I've never found myself very convinced by the idea that economies can be too integrated to allow for conflict between powers. I mean, that was a very popular thesis among a lot of European writers and statesmen in the early 1910s, and didn't quite work out for them then. I think certainly an economic crisis does raise the possibility of sharper inter-imperialist conflicts between different powers, including between China and the United States. I think there has been, first of all, because of the sort of less sharp divide of formal versus semi-colonial rule, as I discussed, there's been less of a sharpness to that conflict in terms of escalating into open warfare. But I think you're very much going to see the potential of escalation further of trade conflict, of sort of saber rattling and military maneuvers potentially. I think those are certainly a possibility, and I don't think you can rule out the potential of an open conflict or a war, but I think right now it's more likely to take the form of a lot of intensification of the existing sort of pressures being leveraged against each other.